Today's agenda is what is Finder and navigating your way around it so that you can make better use of it and save time and find things and organize things a little bit better. Organizing and finding things on computers seems to be a very common struggle for everybody, no matter how advanced they get, because the more advanced you get, the more issues you're trying to deal with. But just basically organizing and navigating around Finder, it does make it easy to do a lot of things. And there's no way we can cover all the capabilities of Finder, but we're going to cover, I think, what are probably some of the more common and important ones. And I'm going to share a few tips that I use as well that might help you out. Okay, so Finder manages files, and it's located in the dock. This little happy face is the icon for Finder. So whenever you click on it, it opens up a Finder window on your desktop. Finder is always running on your Mac. It comes up and starts up automatically when you start up your Mac, and it runs in the background, and it makes sure that it's possible for you to find your files whenever you need to find them. It's just located in the dock. It's really easy to find. If you don't know how to get to your dock, just scroll down with your mouse and your dock will pop up, or scroll down with your trackpad. A couple of things about terminology that Apple uses that might be helpful. They talk about something called the menu bar. Okay, and the menu bar is something that appears at the top left of your Mac screen, and it has an Apple icon, and then it has some information that goes along the top left. And for when you have a particular window open, the menu is for that particular window. So if you have notes open, you would see a menu for notes. If you have pages open, you would see a menu for pages. But if you have Finder open, you'll see a big Finder in bold here, and you'll see some menu options: File, Edit, View, Go, Window, and Help. Help is usually in all of them. And the reason Finder is in bold, and I'll show you this, is when you click on it, you will get a drop-down menu that gives you the ability to change some settings for Finder. But all of these menu functions exist for every application. And when you see somebody refer to the menu bar, this is what they're talking about. So that's one navigation tip that might be able to help you. Yeah, Melissa?
Is the menu bar the same as a toolbar? Are they interchangeable?
Good question, because I think that is my next slide. Okay.
Oh, I anticipated you. Okay.
Yes, but they are different. As you start to get more comfortable and looking at that menu bar, you'll see a lot of these things appear in every single app that you use, but they are specific to the app. So when you click on something like File or Edit in Finder, you will get different drop-down options than you'll see in, say, Pages or Keynote, for example.
Right. But it just helps people to know. That was one of the big things that Apple had over Windows when they came out, was a consistent user interface, which since then, Apple's gotten worse and Windows has gotten better. But, you know, it's good to know.
It's hard to maintain consistency, yes. The toolbar is what Apple and usually most applications and vendors refer to when they talk about the icons and navigations at the top of your window. So in many cases, these options are a duplicate of what you can get in the menu bar. It's just that this is called a toolbar, and it gives you quick access to the tools so that you don't have to move your mouse all the way up to the menu bar. You can move it to the toolbar and get access to many of these things. But you can see there's some funny icons. There's a back arrow, a forward arrow. These three buttons are the standard Mac window options, but some of these icons may not be familiar to you, and so you may not have ever clicked on them to see what they do. So we're going to do that today. You might see different terminology between Macs and Windows when they talk about a tool. Well, in Windows, the bottom bar, I just remember the name, it's called the task bar.
All right.
So a toolbar is generally considered the top menu options, and usually things like browsers have toolbars. These Windows have toolbars. The icons in a toolbar will be different for different applications because they're application specific. They can also be customized if you ever want to get more advanced in doing that. Okay, there is something that Apple calls the sidebar. The sidebar is a column on the left that shows information. Sometimes it's in your application, sometimes it's not, depends on the application you use. But Finder does have a sidebar that will show you locations and folders and favorites. We'll take a look at that and how it's organized. But this is what Apple is talking about when they talk about the sidebar. And the sidebar is a really great thing to take advantage of. View options are what are in the toolbar in this area. So there are these little icons control the view, how the files and folders are displayed within Finder, so that you have the option to change the view just by clicking these. You can also go to the view menu in the menu bar at the top, because the view is what you control. But there are usually more options in the menu bar than there are in the toolbar of the window itself, because they don't have a lot of room here. But you can set these so that you can change how things will view. And we'll take a look at my documents folder and see what happens when we change these views. Any questions about view options and toolbars? Okay. These are just terms that, when Apple throws out instructions, you're looking for help and you go to websites and they say, oh, click on your toolbar or click in view options, click in the menu bar. You got to know where this stuff is. It's like driving down the street and somebody says, make a left turn from the left turn lane. You got to know where the left turn lane is in the first place to recognize it. You got to know what yield sign looks like or a green light looks like in order to recognize where to find it. So these are tools that help you navigate around Finder, and every other application has toolbars, that you can customize and use for that application. There's also a search bar. They call it a search bar, although it's technically a search field where you can type something in. You'll find the little standard magnifying glass icon. One of the things that Apple is really, really good at is consistency about icons and their meaning. And they kind of set the standard. Everybody's pretty well much caught up right now, so that if you see a magnifying glass, that's an icon for search. If you see a trash can, that's something for trash. If you see an icon with 3 dots in it, that means more or options that are available. And so Apple is really consistent across Macs, across iPads, across iPhones with all of their icons and applications. And they try and give you the ability to see how things look across your devices as well in a more consistent approach. Sort and more. These are 2 icons. This little tool with the little drop-down arrow and looks like a couple of different rows of things, that's a sorting tool. It gives you the ability to take a look at anything that's displayed on your Finder window and choose how you want it sorted. In this case, these are sorted alphabetically, Adobe to Zoom, okay? But you can sort them by a number of different ways, and we'll take a look at sorting them. This more will give you a few options that we'll take a look at. It varies a lot from application to application, depending on what you're doing. And the share option here is how you share things. So if you want to send a file or to someone, or sends you can send it using the Apple tools, and Apple will give you the ability to share it by messages or by email or by AirDrop or any number of other mechanisms that Apple supports. And you can put a number of different options in your share options to be able the ability to do that. And there's another icon here. I don't know if we'll have time to look at it today. It's called tags. Tags are another way of identifying a file. So say I had presentations for tech topics, and I wanted to make sure that every presentation for a tech topic had a way for me to find it easily, no matter where I put it, whatever folder I put it in. I could give it a tag, and that would let me search for tags, and that way I could find things across multiple folders if I wanted to. And that's one of the purposes of tags, if you want to use them that way. It's another way of organizing it. Think of it like a label that you put on a file or a folder. And then there's this thing called the context menu. On Windows, it's called a right click. On Apple, it's officially called a secondary click. So your trackpad and your mouse do not have a left or a right divider line. If I hold up my Logitech mouse here, you can see there's a divider down the middle. It's got a right-hand side and a left-hand side. But if I hold up my Apple Magic Mouse, it's smooth all the way across. But there is a upper right area where if you click on that, or if you click on your trackpad in the appropriate area, I think you use 2 fingers is the standard setting on your trackpad, you will get a context menu that is context aware of what you can do with that particular file or folder. Okay, so if you're working with something on your desktop, like I do, I get some options here, and you can see different ways of looking at them and taking different options. If I look at my OneDrive folder, I will have a different set of context options. And sometimes you may add in an application that you add onto your Mac that gives you the ability to come up with an additional feature on your context menu. But this is an easy way to get to renaming or getting information about it, or duplicating it, or taking a quick look at something also. So, and you can even reveal where it is in Windows if you want to open up in Windows. I have Parallels that runs on my Mac. And so if I want to open up a file and use it in Windows, I have some context options here that may not be available to other people because they don't have Parallels running Windows installed on their Mac, for example. So these will vary a little bit. But you can copy it. Share is the same thing as using it with the share icon. So you can get to it this way as well. So those are some of the terms that Apple uses for navigating along. And there's more features too. You can use drag and drop. Mac really was one of the first to really emphasize dragging and dropping features so that you don't have to do it. Windows is pretty well caught up with that, and they're comparable. You can customize things like your toolbar if you want to. You can use tags, as I mentioned. You can use Spotlight to search for files. Your Mac is indexing your files all the time and trying to identify information that it can use to help you use search tools for them to be able to find things. And then there are more advanced tools that you can take advantage of as well. I'm sharing my desktop here. And if I go down to my dock and I click on Finder, it'll open up a Finder window. Okay. I'm going to move something out of the way here. There we go. Okay. So on my Finder window, here's my Finder menu at the top that I mentioned. Here's the Mac window controls. Here's the toolbar that I mentioned as well. Okay, so on the right-hand side of my Mac desktop, there's not anything that's really that important. That's for context-specific applications that I might be using, okay? So I want to make sure, can everybody see the Finder menu where my mouse is now? Okay. So let's click on Finder, and what you see is you see About Finder, which tells you what's going on. You can see Settings, and this is where people can customize Finder if they want to. We'll take a quick look at Settings, and you can see there's a lot, okay? So what I can do is I can choose how I look at the general settings, show these items on the desktop. I can show the new Finder window shows recents. Now, when you launch Finder, you notice that on mine, it went to recents, okay, which is what most people would want. But if you don't particularly like that, you can change which one it opens up at first. You can go to make it open documents, or you can have it do iCloud Drive or other files if you want to as well. So those are some of the things you can do to customize your tools. You can manage your tags here if you want to. And I have some tags that I use. You can assign these tags. Here's one I mentioned, or I said I want to use presentations. You can use the plus and the minus button to manage tags, just like you can with a lot of other things in Mac. So that's that consistent menu that Apple talks about. And you can choose whether you want to show the tags in your sidebar or not. Okay, if I click on Show Presentations in the sidebar, it'll show presentation tags in the sidebar if I want to show tags in the sidebar. But if I don't want to show them, I don't have to. This gives me the ability to manage what appears in the sidebar. These are standard. I haven't changed these so that I'll see recents, AirDrop, applications. These are all things that I can choose to share in the sidebar. And then advanced, which gives you the ability to show things like a warning before removing a file from iCloud Drive. Because if you remove it from iCloud Drive, it's removed everywhere. They keep it in a temporary trash for 30 days. Or if you just want to have your trash cleaned out for you, you've got basically a tool that does it. These are some of the options that may be something that's there. I like showing all file name extensions. Let's see if it can change it. See, I like showing .jpeg, .mp4, .pdf. If I turn that off, I think I have to wait till I close Finder, reopen it maybe for it to change, or change the settings to make that change. So you might see some things that are different on yours. The defaults are set up just fine, and they usually don't need any changes, but that's what you find in the Finder option. Any questions about that? Okay, the next menu is the File. You can start new folders and close windows. You can, if you have a file selected, I don't have a file selected. So if I select a file here, you'll see it's highlighted in blue. Now, if I go to File, all of these options are no longer in gray, except Eject. Eject is where you can eject a hard drive, a flash drive, or something else. So I can create a new Finder window. I like using two Finder windows side by side because it gives me the ability to drag and drop things between two Finder windows, and I can see things in different places. I could create a folder. I can open up a tab. You can open up tabs in Finder now. You can open this application, this file with something. So normally your Mac and also on Windows, they'll have what are called default applications. And so a PDF file on Macs generally opens up with the Apple Preview app. Okay, that's the default. But if you prefer and you want to change it, you can change, and it'll show you all the apps that might be available and other things that are option. You can get information about the file, and this shows you a little bit about the file. It's a PDF document, how big it is, where it is. when it was created, any links that might have been used in it, where it was created. This is my ticket to the Prado Museum, or the plan of the Prado Museum, that I put in iCloud so that I always have it available for me when I go to Spain. So those are some file options. And there's also file options in these tools along here, so that if you want to look at file options, there's also a way to use that secondary click. I get the ability to get a lot of these options available when I right click on my mouse or trackpad to do all of these things as well. So it gives you an easy way to get to the menus that you might want to access if you want to. So instead of going here to rename it, I can just right click it and go to rename and change the name of it. So here's one that is called print PDF. I would like to know what's inside that. Okay, so one of the things I can do is I could double click on it to open it. So I double click on it, it opens it. This is a help guide PDF for my Sony travel camera, my ZV-1. Okay, so I can do that, but I can also go to the view menu. And if I go to the view menu, you can see there's options here for how to list these. But one of the things that's available is something called show preview. And I use this a lot. If you turn on show preview, all of a sudden now a right-hand column opens up and it shows me a preview of that document. It's fantastic. I love using it. So if I want to look at the Prado Museum, I want to see what is that. Oh, that's what that file is. All I have to do is click on different files and I'll see different things. Here's my camera receipt. Here's the, a couple of MP4s that I have. So anytime you want to look at, have this view open, just go to view and turn on preview. If I want to hide the preview, I can hide the preview. Okay. And now the preview is just gone. It doesn't mean it's not available to me, just saves me from double clicking on a file and having to close that window every time I want to see something that's in a folder or see what a file is made up of. Is that the right one or something like that? Because like this print one, I say, why did it save as print? Well, it just ended up doing that, but I can view it. I can go to show preview and I can say, oh, that's my Sony documentation. Then I can right click on it, go to rename, and I can change the name to my Sony ZV-1 instructions, okay? And then hit the return key, and now I've got it named. So, I mean, these are different things you can do to make your life a little bit easier when you're trying to find things. So if you haven't used preview, just go to view and turn on preview, and it's great. Now, if you're wondering what view options are, view options gives you the ability to set some information about what's going to show up when you look at a file. So this doesn't show the text size. If you want to make the text bigger, there's some ability to do that. We can change it to 16-point type or keep the standard, which I think is 12 or 13, but I like mine at about 14. I can see when the date it was added, or I can see the tags. Okay, so there's a column that showed up for tags. All of a sudden, when I put tags on here, I can show an icon preview. That's that little icon here. If it's a Word document or a pages or a photo or a video, it'll show you an icon on that next to the item. If I don't like the icon, I can turn it off. It just shows me a little less information if it has it. I could show when it was created and when it was modified and when it was added too, if I want to. Okay, so you can change your views for that. And there are some other options that you can do on view. Go is a fast way to go to a particular folder or area. Typically, you won't necessarily need it, but it's used a lot by Apple when they use technical support, so they might ask you to go things. But if you just want to go quickly to your documents, you could just go to documents like this. But I find it's just as easy to use the sidebar. But say, for example, you didn't want to have the sidebar taking up the space, you could, move things around a little bit and manage it a little bit different way, because you can customize your view a lot as well. The window tells you how this window appears. The Finder window is what I'm moving around with my mouse. And if I want to, I can move that to my Mac display. I have a dual display set up, or I can move it to my iPad Pro, or I can tile it to the left of the screen. You know how some of these tiling gives you the ability, I can zoom in on it if I want to as well. So there's some there. And then help gives you the ability to get help on Finder, and also take advantage of going right to the web for Mac OS help or other things like that. So that's the menu bar has a lot of tools there. Okay, now the toolbar, this section here, there's a lot of icons here. These arrows give you the ability to navigate across different areas of your Finder. So if I was at desktop, or I went to downloads, or I went to documents, or I went to stock photos, this gives me the ability to go backwards and forwards, just like a web browser, from the different ones I have open if I want to. And so it gives you some quick navigation that I want to look at if I'm interested. Okay, so this is my documents folder. It's one of the screenshots I took. And you can see it's listed in alphabetical order. I like to use what's called a list view. That's just my personal preference. So I can look over these items and say, I can show items as a list, or in a gallery, or as icons. So if I right click on this menu item, this icon, I can show the icon and the text if it knows it. Okay, so if I go to, say, let me go to recents and here, and I'll change my view because they change for each one. So I can go to icon only, or I can go to text only. And you can see how some of these views change a little bit. Okay, so if I want to view them in different ways, I can. Okay, so I lost my toolbar here, but I've got the ability to change these back to icons here. I've got the ability to change it as columns. I've got the ability to view it as gallery here, so as well. So I can change my customized toolbar tool to say I want to show different things in the toolbar and be able to get information on how that toolbar and some of these items are being shown. Okay, so this is the default set in the toolbar, and I'll click that on done. And now I've got it back here. So this is an icon view. This is a list view. This is a column view. And the column is showing the folder and the subfolders. So if I look at a folder that might make more sense to you, let's go to documents. And if I look at something like app downloads here, I'll see some apps that I've downloaded. They're being viewed as icons. I can show them as a list. I can show them as a columns. So app downloads, other things will show them in multiple columns, subfolders to subfolders to subfolders. So it's another way to look at items that you may be interested in looking at in different ways and approaching them in different ways. And you can see it with iCloud Drive as well. I can change the view. So whatever folder or I'm looking at, I have the ability to change the view to whatever makes sense for me. Now, I don't have some things here. Let's see if I can find some Keynote here. Keynote has a lot of subfolders. So you can see if I want to see everything in my subfolders from Keynote, a column view like this makes sense. Whereas if I just want to see the main, and I don't mind opening up the folder and opening up another folder and opening up another folder, if I have the folders kind of nested together, this shows the nested view as opposed to just list, which shows what I'm in right now, but it doesn't show me what this is part of, except for the fact that down here at the bottom, I have what's called the path. So I'm looking at the files that are in Z older classes. That's part of community college classes, which is part of Keynote, which is part of iCloud Drive. This is called a path because it's like a breadcrumb trail. So that if I'm looking at this file here, I can see that it's part of this folder, which is a part of this folder, which is a part of this folder, which is on this drive. So I can see what's called the path that I would have to go to get to it. Now you can see I've got a tag here for this one called presentations. So, and you can see how the tag shows up in the column view for presentations here as well. So let's go back to recents. This is my list view here that I have. So the last setting that I use to view the folder will be the setting that will be used for what I choose to go to it again. So if you see a folder, you can have different views for different folders. So if I go up to iCloud Drive, let's see if Keynote remembered it or not. Yes, see, Keynote is being viewed in columns, whereas recents is being viewed in list. So these settings are going to be remembered by the folders that you're using, which is great because you can change the settings in Finder so that it defaults to one, but you have the ability to look at things differently. If I wanted to show this as icons, I can see them recents as icons, and recents will show what you've worked with recently and what you might have worked with a little bit later in time. And then this last view shows you a big preview of something. So if you have an item that's a big photo or something that you want to use or show different pictures of, you have the ability to show them as previews and scrolling through them that way. Some people prefer lists. Some people prefer icons. Some people prefer different points, different ways of viewing. So it's just a matter of what, but different views may help you find something in different ways. I like putting in the year, the month, the day, the files a lot because it makes it easy for me to find things, but not everybody does that. Here's a permit that I had or a receipt or other things that I have that I did. Here's a presentation I did for Reg's International Happenings group, but I will typically date these things if I want to. But you can also see the date it was last opened, and you can see what kind of file it is. So one of the advantages of the date last opened, and the columns here, is that you can sort by columns here as well. So if you click on this little disclosure area that shows up by a column, you'll have options. Now, recent is going to show things in a time organization no matter what you do. But if I go to documents, I can look at this and say, under name, I can choose to organize them in different alphabetical orders if I want to. I can also look at when I last modified it. So I say, I know I worked on something in March, or I know I worked on something today, or I know I worked on something on April 29th, whatever it is. You can find it that way by looking at date modified and organizing it that way. And to just get back to the alphabetical order, you can just click on the heading of the column here to do that. Or if you're looking at something and you want to find all of by kind. You want to find, well, I'm looking for a JPEG file. If you have the kind column displayed, you can organize them by kind. Now, again, recents is going to organize them automatically by previous, etc. But if I go to stock photos, some of these are PNG images, some of them are JPEGs, some of them are folders. So by clicking on kind, I have the ability, but if you want to go back to alphabetical order, you can go back to alphabetical order just by clicking at the top of the column. These column headings are great because you can look at this more setting and you can sort by different options here, by name, kind, shared by, if it's a shared file, or last modified, date last open. So a lot of these things where you're thinking, gee, I got to put a date or I got to put a time. I mean, they're okay, but you also have the ability to find different other ways to do it. And you've also got the ability to do something called import from iPhone or iPad. So I'm going to take a selfie. So you'll have to excuse the way I look. Okay, but I'm going to take a photo here. And it says, take a photo with Bob's phone. Let me start this away again here. I'm going to go to import from iPhone, take a photo, and it'll open up the camera on my phone. And I'm going to point it at me, take a selfie, and I will tap on use photo on the phone. And here's the image right in my Finder folder already. Apple's applications will often give you the ability to import from iPhone or iPad if you want to. And so you can use it that way to do something very quickly. It didn't give it a good name, it just gave it image. Okay, that's fine. But it tells me when it was done, and it's now in my folder wherever I need, for me to use whenever I need it. You could scan documents with it. You can use existing photos on your iPhone. This is part of the continuity features that Apple has, so that you go to this action function, import from iPhone or iPad, and it'll give you the ability to import something right away.
Bob, why didn't it go into photos? Why did it go to stock photos?
Well, because that's the folder I had open. I am importing it into a folder called stock photos.
Oh, you were in that folder.
Now, I don't know if it'll show up in photos. Let's open up photos and see if it shows up there as well. I don't know if it did or not. It may have, it may not have. The photo's running a little slow for me right now. There it is. So did it show up? No, it hasn't shown up yet. Now, it may show up. I'm not sure. Let me check my phone to see if it showed up. It started in photos on my phone or not. No, it goes directly into the folder that you're working with, or the document you're working with.
Okay. Just another question, Bob. In search, if you use search, can you, let's say you put in extensions, okay? Extensions. Can you search for the word extensions in file names and folder names? Can you also search inside your content for extensions?
It says, it gives me two options. It says the name of the file contains extensions, or the content includes the extensions.
Fantastic. Okay.
And I can also see, it says search this Mac or search stock photos.
Right.
So by looking for stock photos here, it'll tell me if something includes the name extensions or not.
Okay.
So you have the ability to do that by in the search and search out. Now, you can also bring up search by using your command and space key. It brings up search as well, but it'll search everything on your Mac, not just what's in Finder. So that's the only difference between using this search tool versus the command space key, which brings up Spotlight search. Or if you're lazy, you can go to the upper right-hand menu and click on the search button up here. That brings up Spotlight search also. Now, let's say I want to share this image. I can click on the share icon, and it'll give me the ability to send it to people that I've messaged recently, or send it as messages, airdrop it. Now I can add it to photo if I want to. And I can even add it to freeform, because I know some of you like using freeform.
Bob,
Yes.
I noticed that the problem that I have, and you don't have it either, is the option to share with email.
Right. Now, let's see if we edit these extensions, it may give me the ability,
That's the
there's
same thing.
mail.
That's the
Okay,
same
so
thing I
my
have.
mail is not, this doesn't give me the ability to share via email in Finder, which
I
is
have that
odd, I
same.
know.
Yeah.
I can
have that.
copy the link, but it it doesn't give me the ability to do that. However, if I go to email and I attach it, I can drag it. So let me show you one of the things that I like about
Thank you.
Finder. If I go to File, New Finder window, it opens up a new Finder window. I'm going to make this a little, I'm going to use this tool here. I'm going to tile this to the left of the screen, click on this to tile this to the right of the screen. So now you should see two Finder windows open side by side, correct? Okay, if I go to, say, desktop, I'm going to change my view to just list, okay, to make it a little bit simpler. And I want to take this image, which I put into stock photos, and I say, no, I really don't want it there. I'd like to get it on my desktop. I can click on it and just drag it over to my desktop, and it moves it to my desktop. So I like using two Finder windows to keep my files organized, because it's really easy for me to drag things back and forth. I can keep one folder open here like documents, keep another folder over here like stock photos, and I can drag things back and forth really easily without having to constantly worry about where did I put that, how did I put that, what did I do with that type of thing.
Bob, how did you tile the left-hand screen?
Okay, so let me close this and get out of it again. Okay, so I opened up a new Finder window. Okay, it doesn't matter what window you open up. Okay, so I'm just opening up Finder, and I'm going to click on the green dot on my Mac.
Wow.
On the left one, it says tile window to left of screen.
Wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
So I click on that, and then I only have one other window open, so that's the one I got to click on.
Amazing.
And it gives me a view of two of them side by side.
Wow.
And then when I want to close out of that, I'll click on the green button and it closes that tiled window. But if I had another application, Pages, something else open, I could do that as well. So let me pause for a second and stop sharing and see if I can take some questions here. Okay, Carol, go ahead.
So I've been doing a lot of wrong things in the photo app, but I was in Finder dragging photos into the library. But I don't have any iPhone, so all my stuff is from my Samsung, all my photos. So I think I just learned I'm supposed to import everything into the Photos app. Don't be using the Finder to drag it. Is that correct?
Right. I mean, you can put photos. I mean, how do you get your photos from your Samsung to your Mac?
That's my question. They're all in Google Photos.
Okay. Well, you can download Google Photos to your Mac. And then after you download them, you can just drag them all into the Photos app. When you can just drag them from your download folder into the Photos app on your Mac, and they'll end up in Photos.
I don't have to upload them. I mean, what's it called? Import them into Photos?
Well, if you just drag and drop a photo from wherever it is on your Mac into the Photos app icon on your dock, it'll automatically import them. It may ask you if you want to import photos. It may bring up the Photos app and say, do you want to import these? Just say yes. But you can do a batch of them that way. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Kathleen.
Quick question. What is freeform, and B, how long before you have this particular episode available to look at again for those of us who
Sure. Freeform is what's called a whiteboard. It comes with Apple devices. It's a free app. It may not be installed, but it's basically a drawing, diagramming, sketching, whatever you want to do with it. It's basically a sheet of white paper that you can use and do anything with. Okay, you can add photos to it, you can add diagrams, you can draw with it, you can sketch with it, you can type on it. And so basically it's called a whiteboard because it's just a blank sheet of paper and you can do almost anything you want with it with the different tools.
And if you copy it, does the resolution come out? I understand if you copy pages, the resolution is poor, but if you would copy the freeform, is that better resolution?
You can copy screenshots. You can import photos. You can do all kinds of things, and you can take freeform and export something as a PDF or a graphic file.
Oh, thank you.
Sure. Yeah, Paula.
I was just going to
just one question. Quick thing. The recording will be available probably by Saturday, if not, by tomorrow in the Tech Topics recordings.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Paula, go ahead. Sorry.
I actually have two questions that are basic, and I apologize for that. But is everything on a Mac not backed up to the iCloud like my phone or my iPad is?
That is correct.
Okay.
Unlike the iPhone and the iPad backup utility that comes with them will back up everything on your device. The Mac, the backup tool is called Time Machine.
Yep.
And if you have an external disk drive, a USB drive, and you plug it into your Mac, it usually will prompt you to decide, tell it you want to use this as a Time Machine backup. Now, anything you put in your iCloud Drive folder is in iCloud, but only the things you specifically put in your iCloud Drive folder on your Mac.
Okay. And then my other question is, can you have, like in a Windows environment, I have subfolders to my folders, and there's subfolders to those subfolders all the way down. Can you do that on a Mac? Do you have subfolders? Yeah,
that's essentially what I was doing with the Keynote folders. You saw that column.
Okay.
That represents the top folder, the second level, the third level, and then the files that are in that specific third level folder. So you can have that nesting on Macs. Folders work very similarly because files are basically the same across almost all computers. So if you've got a PDF file, it's a PDF file everywhere, for example. And if you got a folder, you can create folders, subfolders, and subfolders. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
just like on a piece Windows. It's just that some of the icons will look a little bit different. So like, how do I see this might be a little bit different, which is sometimes a little bit of a transition tool going back and forth. But I use both Windows and Macs, so I'm pretty familiar with how things look in both of them.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Go ahead, Carl.
Yeah. Okay. So you use Windows and you use Macs. And I'm the editor of a magazine. I just call you and I say, I want you to write an article. Which is better for file management? What's your answer?
They're both pretty comparable. Who's better which is better for file management is more dependent on the person managing the files, not the device. So like I can give you, you know, a 4-drawer file cabinet, Carl, and I can give, you know, Ronald a 2-drawer file cabinet. And you can hold more, or I could give it, here's a better example. I can give you a vertical file cabinet where the drawers pull straight out, right? And I'll give Ronald a lateral one where the drawers pull laterally. Which one's better for organizing files?
You're saying they're both the same.
Exactly. It depends on who creates the labels, the folders, the names of everything like that.
It just seemed to me that Apple was stronger because I didn't know a lot of this stuff you were showing today. It just seemed to me.
Well, we're going to do one on Windows when I get back from Spain, and it's pretty comparable. Okay. It's pretty comparable. Just you may not know you're doing all of this. You can do all those things in Windows. But if you look at File Explorer, you'll see a set of icons on the toolbar, a set of preferences, a set of options. They're pretty much the same. It's just that the icons might be a little bit different.
What about the path on the bottom? Remember you had the path on the bottom?
I don't know where the path usually shows up at the top on Windows instead of.
Okay.
But it's like a path doesn't depend on the computer. It depends on, it's the way files are organized on computers, which is pretty standard.